You know what's interesting is that I've found everybody in every game that they're working in has got a lot of concerns. Like if you talk to a lot of people that work in StarCraft, they're concerned with Blizzard or just the state of RTS games or the way tournaments are being run. But by every game I've talked to, and I've talked to people in all different types of esports, there's always a lot of concern about how things are being handled.
I think part of that is, I think part of it for me, from what I witnessed, and maybe this is like a little bit of like my boomer viewpoint of everything, where it's just like in esports we love hand jobs. We love those like verbal hand jobs on Twitter of like, I love it every time I do a major, and it's like I got guys from like Hex and Fwiz and like all the Call of Duty guys would be like, man, CS:GO is like the best esports ever. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool as fuck. They really appreciate my esports, but I mean, like everyone realizes when they hit like 20 years old is hand jobs aren't that cool. Yeah. And like, it doesn't actually get you anything.
Yeah.
Like we just did, today was the Esports Awards ceremony, right?
Yeah.
And they announced League of Legends won Best Esports Game of the Year and Counter-Strike was second. And I know a lot of Counter-Strike fans, and as people loyal to one game and one esport will always say, Counter-Strike got robbed. It should have won that. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, no. League of Legends deserves that shit. Like Counter-Strike is not the best esport. Counter-Strike is probably the best esports game, but it is not the best esports product. We are seen as such a mess. And I think, we're at the point now where it's like, if we don't stop giving each other these hand jobs about how good of a game we have and how good of an esports we have, we can't actually address the problems because everyone is just so jacked up on how cool our game is compared to other scenes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but there's so many problems we need to get to that we need to fix. Revenue stream, revenue streams for the TOs is an issue. How are we going to have an esport if our TOs can't even afford to make money? It's going to dry up at some point, all this investment.
What is it like with Valve being so hands off? Does that give you comfort, or does that infuriate you, or what is that like? And just for the people listening, if you were to look at Riot or Blizzard and how they handle their esports, they're very, very, very hands on.
Yeah.
Now Blizzard's in a bit of free fall here with the firings, and then there's many important people that are leaving Blizzard. So I don't know where they're going to be at exactly, but historically they were very hands-on.
Right.
And Riot, of course, is also completely present.
Yeah.
And actually completely in control of their
hands
esport.
And feet.
And hands and feet. And when I look at Valve, I don't know if I should be impressed or shocked or confused or what. They're just not there at all.
I have so many different opinions on this, and it's hard, and I feel like kind of like an asshole because I can't really give you a definitive answer. Like in one sense, first of all, I can't really blame them. They're devs who wanted to come in and code video games for a living. They didn't want to have to build an entire esports ecosystem,
right.
And they probably don't even necessarily have the business know-how to be able to manage all these different conflicting situations. So on that side, I'm just like, yeah, that's fair play. You guys just wanted to be devs. You guys just want to make a cool video game, and you're also succeeding. Even if I don't agree with all your decisions in terms of gameplay changes, you're succeeding. On the other hand, I think it's amazing that they're so hands off because I do very much believe that if this is something that's going to succeed, it's going to be the market that dictates it, not a developer. Being so hands-on. And also I look at a game like Overwatch where the developer is so involved in it. I'm just saying, what happens if the developer says this is a waste of time and money, and then all of a sudden they pull out and then that game just dies? I don't want that situation.
Well, they already did this with Heroes of the Storm.
Right, and that scene just collapsed.
Yeah, that was the big shock in all of gaming was that, you can just end this?
Yeah.
Because people, I think, especially with a company like Blizzard, were always under the impression that
Blizzard's usually been very loyal to their games over the years.
Yeah, and so to see them pull out, and then, even if you're someone who just played Heroes of the Storm for fun, I think that them pulling out of HGC, it kills the game in such an incredible way.
Yeah.
I mean, it really says
so definitively.
We don't care. Why would you even bother trying to play this game or get good when we won't even back it?
Yeah. So I mean, no, it's an interesting thing, right? And I don't mind them being so hands off, except for the fact that I think where Counter-Strike really struggles compared to other games and other esports is we don't really have a very fleshed out content creator system. We don't have a whole lot of Counter-Strike YouTubers. We have a few of them, and the ones that we do have do pretty well. But where I look at Valve and I say, we don't need you to be hands on with all of the esports and all the technical or all the know-how of organizing the scene, but why is your Twitter account not retweeting the content creators? Why are you not helping other people, and this will just be like a selfish example, but if I want to make a Counter-Strike video, or if I want to make like a weekly video and updating about the esports scene, why am I not getting why are they not helping me, build my brand and grow my content that's then in turn going to help their game? It's a very simple thing for them. I'm not even doing that. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be, narcissistic about it, but that's where I feel like Counter-Strike is missing the most, is the content outside of the game. We obviously have more than enough esports and more than enough tournaments going on, but where's all the content that can generate more interest for the game?
I was always weirded out too when, because I actually play CSGO from time to time.
Yeah.
Me and some of my buddies, this is like the equivalent of like 30 and over intramural basketball game, because I'm not very good at CSGO, but I grew up playing it a lot.
I was going to say, you're from that generation.
Yeah, I'm from that generation. Yeah. It was basically StarCraft.
Everyone played Counter-Strike at some point. Counter-Strike and StarCraft and Quake were like the three games
that were there. So whenever I try to get on, I'm always kind of surprised that it's, for instance, you can't play more than 2 games to get ranked. Do you know about this? Like, you can only play 2 ranked games a day. Whenever I try to get my friends in on this,
it could be. Listen, I even when I've had time at home, I still don't play matchmaking. I mean, that's just a funny story, because that just leads into the other thing with Valve is, if you want to be a serious Counter-Strike player, you don't use Valve's matchmaking system. You go to a third party.
Yeah, this is where what I was trying to lead into. Okay. Yeah,
perfect. You pay ESCA like $7 to $15 a month to play on their matchmaking. You pay Faceit, whatever, $10 a month to play on their system, and that's got the better anti-cheat. That's got the better and more streamlined match finding, automated service. ESCA has all the leagues attached to theirs as well. So I mean, that's just kind of a funny angle of it. But at the same time, ESCA has been around since 2004, 2005. So it'd almost be a shame if like Counter-Strike, if Valve came in and just destroyed that company that actually kept Counter-Strike alive in North America for over a decade. Like, if it wasn't for ESCA in North America, Counter-Strike wouldn't be a thing.
It's crazy when you look at Valve and what their business philosophy is, because I knew this guy high up in gaming that went to, I guess there's these big conferences where game developers basically share what they're trying to do. And the person from Valve that was at this conference basically said, we don't make anything anymore. Everybody makes stuff for us.
Yeah.
That's how we've won, is they own Steam.
Yep.
I mean,
genius, by the way.
Genius.
I remember when Steam came out. You probably do too.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, and I'm like, wait, my games are just always there?
Yeah.
I don't have these scratch CD-ROMs that I have to find.
I was weirded out. I was like, I don't even want to deal with this. Like, why do I have to re-download this game, this Counter-Strike that I had?
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, you're like, oh, that's actually a genius play. You guys win. You guys won the game, literally.
Yeah. It's totally fascinating because it seems to have worked. I've actually heard, and I don't know if this is true, that Valve is the richest private company.
I've been told that as well.
Yeah.
I think it was like per employee, they make the most money per employee.
Yeah, there's some type
lines.
of metric, but apparently it's just absurd how much they take in.
Well, I mean, this is the interesting part about the business in general, and also just focusing on Counter-Strike too, is like one thing Counter-Strike has never had is any sort of competitor. Yeah. There's never been anyone who's been able to, even Call of Duty as an FPS could never touch Counter-Strike in terms of, I mean, I shouldn't say that, because I think COD obviously is a cool game and has an amazing competitive scene and history to it, and obviously it's massive, makes a shit ton of money. But no game has ever like really truly challenged Counter-Strike as an esports title, and nobody's ever truly challenged Valve as like a game distribution center. Now we have Epic coming in, so maybe that'll change things. And I know for people in Counter-Strike, we're kind of like, wonder what happens when Counter-Strike gets a competitor. I wonder if Valve is going to take a little bit more of a hands-on approach.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Real quick question, too. I don't know how much you know about this, but do they handle Dota the exact same way, or is there a different model that they use?
In terms of their esports?
Yeah.
It's very different.
Okay, so that's what I had understood, but I wasn't 100%
okay,
sure.
Let me say this. I cannot be sure because I've never actually confirmed it with the devs, but I know one of the philosophies that we've always been told, and at this point, I've heard it so many times over years that I'm not even sure really where the information came from to verify it, but I was told that devs between Dota and Counter-Strike, they want to do different approaches and see what works better. I know we've had a couple conversations with them, especially early on in Counter-Strike. We were asked if we wanted an international, and pretty much unanimously, the pros and people involved in CS esports said no, which I mean, who knows? That could have been a mistake. but they do things pretty differently. Dota has way more devs. I think Dota has like 3 or 4 times the developers that Counter-Strike has. And I think that fluctuates as well based off the way that Valve operates as a company. So we have different ecosystems, different people working on the games, and different philosophies on how to achieve, I guess, a similar goal.
With Valve being the way that they are is there any chance of them having like another CS or Counter-Strike come out? You know, CS:GO's actually got it for a while, but
2012 it came out. So it's getting to old age, I guess you'd mean.
Yeah. I mean, what?
I don't know. I guess that depends on like video game culture of these days. Because I mean, well, here's the weird thing is 1.6 lasted from 1999 until 2011, 2012.
And CS Source didn't take off the way they wanted it to. A lot of people still played on 1.6. Source was cool. It had its own healthy, vibrant scene, and I've done my share of Source bashing, and I probably harbor a little bit more love for the game. And Counter-Strike, you were always like a 1.6 player, a Source player. Yeah.
That actually split the scene more than anything. And back then, at that point in time, it didn't necessarily matter because we didn't have a cohesive community that we do per game nowadays. But it is interesting is like how much longer can CS:GO actually exist in this day and age where there's so many gamers and there's so many video games out there, and it's much more socially acceptable to be a gamer. And now everyone's looking for that next new title to come out, whether it's a streamer who's saying, I need to pounce and become, this game's streamer, or, whatever it might be. I'm very curious at what the attention span of today's gamers can actually be, because it's very different from when you and I were 18, 19, 20 years old and playing games. You've played StarCraft for 25 years now. I've played Counter-Strike for 20 years now.
20 years, yeah.
I played StarCraft
21
even before Counter-Strike ever came out. So I mean, it's an interesting industry to be in at this point.
One of the things I think that made CS:GO so successful is they didn't try to make Counter-Strike 2.